It's the Big Rich Live on the Mic radio show on YouTube. Tune in every Saturday and Wednesday for hot news and opinions, you dig? Like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter at BR Live on the Mic and on Facebook and Instagram at Big Rich Live on the Mic. Join the conversation and catch that fire.
Big Rich, Big Rich, Big Rich, Big. So where to begin? The bipolar goon in a padded room, consumed by the coming doom. The return of Christ at noon split the world in two. Dude pursued the cool until he ruled in 2077. His life's due. The tomb of the devil erected in my room. He resurrected and reunited with the fools, the Hutus in 94 and Ouagadougou in 2016. I see the clues, the Ku Klux Klan in the form of the neighborhood crew.
Big Rich Live here. Big Rich Live show here on YouTube. We're back again. Hoping everybody had a productive and less stressful weekend. Not coming up on the weekend here in Orlando. We're dealing with so-called or semi-hurricane. So hopefully everybody got through safe and buckle down and don't lose power and stuff like that. I think it's actually past us now. I'm not too sure, but it was raining pretty much off and on all day today. A lot of wind, no sunshine peeking through the clouds, and very overcast day. So it is what it is. And the hearts and prayers of anybody who has lost any type of property or, God forbid, died, of lack of medical attention or electricity and stuff like that. You guys are in our hearts and prayers. Today on the show, it's not really a subject. It's a couple of just opinions and thoughts and stuff like that I had over the last couple of days since the last show. And, tweets and direct messages and emails that I've gotten wanting me to elaborate on certain, other things and stuff like that. So, hey, I figure, I'll just come on today's show and we'll chop it up a little bit and just expand on some things and, get the conversation over a little hump and keep it moving in a positive direction. But that's basically all you're trying to do. At least me. I can't talk for any other show or any other host or anything like that. It's just basically to keep the conversation moving. Everybody gets frustrated. I want you to know that you're going to get frustrated. When you are open-minded and you become part of the conscious and knowing community, you're going to be in a position where you will become frustrated. You will become frustrated, and you don't really understand, if you will, how people see things and why people can't actually see things that you see. But you also got to realize that they feel the same way about us. Well, why do you see it differently? Why can't you see it the way I see things? So, there's been a lot of things that happen, and it's just a continuing news cycle. We spoke about Colin Kaepernick at the last show. The quarterback of the 49ers, biracial athlete who took a stand by sitting down for the national anthem, the playing of the national anthem. And when he was asked about it, he elaborated, said that he can't knowingly stand and put his hand over his heart for an anthem, reference a flag that does not live up to its creed, does not live up to its values, does not live up to the words that are said in the anthem for all people. And I had said that I was proud of him, as a veteran, as an African American male, I was proud of that situation. And some people took offense to that. We went back and forth, and again, everybody has their opinion. You can feel the way you want to feel, anyway, either for me or against me or whatever it is. The problem that I have, and I think a lot of people have, is when people use their opinions to affect somebody else, or to dominate, or to punish somebody else because they don't feel or see things the way you feel. And that's where we have the issues. You know, it's continuing, and what I'm proud about Colin is that, you know, he's standing on it. He's standing on, came out with a big Angela Davis afro. Now, I don't know how he put his helmet on. I don't even know if he played in that game against San Diego. Sorry, it was San Diego. I don't even know if he played in that game. I have no idea. But he had the Angela Davis afro, and I was like, go ahead, boy, you just all the way in. You know, sometimes you feel invigorated when you feel so strongly about something and you know that you're right. You know, you're backed up by facts. And that's the thing, is a lot of people feel they're right, but they're not backed up by true facts. They're backed up with what somebody else told them, or what they were taught in a particular grammar school, you know, growing up, or what their grandfather, father, or their father, or mother, who they hold in high regard, which you should, because I hold my mom, God rest her soul, in high regard also. You know, but it's not really based on fact that you can sit back and you can show, you know, say, hey, this is where I'm coming from, and here's the receipts. You know, Tariq Nasheed uses that. He says, I bring receipts. Yeah, here's receipts to what I'm actually saying. You know, I'm not talking out the side of my neck. I'm talking from history. I'm talking from documented history. I'm talking from a factual perspective. So he's still getting hammered and stuff like that. And certain things came out where, you know, it tends to confirm that, you know, some forms of racism in this country is still here. I mean, it's alive and well. It's kicking. It's kicking like a newborn baby. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody who has a heart problem that put a new ticker in their heart. You know, it is alive and well. Just some of the things that people say, you know, and you just sit back and you think, you say, okay, you say this is the land of the free, the home of the brave, you know, freedom of speech, freedom of press, this, that, and the third, and all that. But because somebody decided to express their freedom of speech, and the fact of the matter is he didn't say nothing. Remember, like we said, Colin Kaepernick didn't sit around here and walk up with a shirt that says Black Power on it, or hold a press conference and say, well, I don't like what's going on in this country, this, that, and the third, so this is what I'm going to do. He decided to have a silent protest. It was seen, it was brought up, and then when he was asked about it, he elaborated. So for people who sit around and say that this was the wrong medium to do it in, this is the wrong area to do it in, I asked them, when is any change? I'm talking about any change. You go back to the Revolutionary War, when the colonies came over here and were taxed up to the hilt by the British government. They was like, hell no, we're not going to do this. So what did they do? They rebelled. They made the British uncomfortable. You know, when women wanted to vote, they made their husbands, they made men at that particular time, white men, uncomfortable to get the right to vote. You know, same thing with African Americans. You know, you cannot force change if everybody is comfortable. People are comfortable with the status quo. So you could say that before women had the right to vote, the men were comfortable with the status quo. Before this great nation decided to rebel and the Revolutionary War was fought and won, the British were comfortable with the status quo. So people need to get away from that and be like, well, you know, you're making me uncomfortable. Well, anytime change is done against the status quo, people who are used to the status quo and accepting and thriving by the status quo become uncomfortable. So, you know, he's standing on it. He put his money on it. He said in his press conference, that he was donating $1 million of his, the first $1 million of his check, you know, to various organizations so he can get in the street, so he can put soldiers with feet, feet on the ground. you know, to address some of these inadequacies, address some of the inequalities, you know, jobs and training, maybe babysitting, you know, maybe he opening up daycare centers and stuff where the minimum wage workers that live in these neighborhoods, these hoods, can take their babies to a reputable daycare center and not have to pay half their salary a week. You know, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know the man, and I know this is a work in progress. But he's putting his money where his mouth is. One of my partners from New York sent me a link to a story, an article that he donated, I think $60,000 for book bags and stuff like that to low-income kids in New York, you know, in the Bronx and in Harlem and stuff like that. You know, so the young man's doing his thing. And the fact of the matter is, you know, he ain't calling nobody out. I mean, I got into this Twitter beef, and I usually don't. You know, I just usually just ignore people and keep it on. But this one guy, Caucasian gentleman, he just sort of struck a nerve, because what I do is when I make a statement, okay, when I like something or I retweet something, or, you know, post something on the Instagram, and let's get that, the Twitter is capital B, capital R, live on the mic. The Instagram is Big Rich live on the mic, underscore between both words, all words. And the email address is bigrichliveenthemic@gmail.com. Drop a line. I'll be sure to either answer you directly via the email, the direct message, or the tweet, or I will do a video, you know, bring it up on our show. But he was upset, you know, because he felt that black people were blaming white people, you know, for our ills. And I was trying to explain to him, it's bigger than that, sir. I mean, it's bigger than that. It's not like you sit around and say, and again, I can't speak for all. Okay, all I can speak for is the people. It's me first and foremost, my family, who I have conversations with all the time, my co-workers, you, the people who view my radio show, and we chop it up back and forth. And that's another thing. Now, I'm not talking about chopping up back and forth. We are in the process of launching the chat room, where we'll start going on live. At least one. We're going to do one show live. It's probably going to be this show, the Saturday show, because a lot of times I can fit it in on a Saturday. But we got some new equipment. Remember, I told you before I left that I was waiting on some equipment. Well, we got the equipment in, and it really doesn't work the way it is. So that's what you get from trying to get stuff on eBay, when it says sold as is, and it really don't give you a deep description of exactly what it is. I mean, we got a new mixer, because the old mixer we had only had 2 channels, and I wanted one that had at least 4 to 8 channels, where now we can start having more guests, in studio guests, and go from there. But everything works on it fine, except there's a massive feedback on the headphone. That's why I don't wear headphones for this show, and because I can't, and because I can't wear headphones, we can't have called in guests. So I'm like, why go live? Why do it live if we can't have you, the viewers, to actually chop it up, you know, instantaneously and get feedback back and forth? So we're working on that. I'm hoping by the end of this month, beginning of next month, I'm thinking it's probably going to be sometime in October, where we're actually going to get it really on and popping. So bear with us. But I appreciate everybody who's getting. I mean, we're averaging. I mean, went down a little bit. We're averaging anywhere between 1,000 and 2,500 views per show. I mean, you know, hey, we've only been around 2 months. You know, this is our 23rd show. So anyway, getting back to what I was saying, we went back and forth, and he just really couldn't understand. I was like, sir, it's bigger than that. You know, if you think about one of the shows I did when we first started, before we went to video, when we was just doing the audio portion, I had said that there was 3 entities that I give the lion's share. I'm talking about 90 to 95% of the share of the blame of racism and the not only racial inequality, but the racial division. And that starts with the government. That starts with the government, local, state, federal government. It go when you say, well, Rich, why do you bring the government up? Well, it's policies. Okay, it's policies that was put in action by the government in the past and now that has taken things from minorities, has denied things to minorities that was given to the majority with tax dollars and stuff like that the minorities was also paying in taxes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, remember, there were times in the 50s and in the early 60s that you would have a public pool, right, that was built, maintained, and staffed by tax dollars that minorities were paying, but they wasn't allowed to go to that particular pool. And that's just one of many. But it's redlining, you know, and when I mentioned that, the gentleman, you know, got huffy and puffy and was like, well, redlining was 50 years ago. No, sir, redlining is going on today. It's just not called that. It's a form of it. At the, what was it? The Great Recession, you know, in 2007, 2008. It was shown of the garbage subprime loans that was primarily, now granted, he had brought up a point, said, hey, well, it's just poor people across the board. Yeah, it was, but it was primarily African American and other people of color who suffered the most from it, who was given the worst mortgages. That was 8 years ago. You follow what I'm saying? So it is policy. It's policies. The NAACP, the North Carolina NAACP, the ACLU, excuse me. I get tongue-tied when I got all of those initials. They just won a 3-year battle with the state of North Carolina with the most restrictive and racist, quote-unquote, ID bill ever enacted since Jim Crow. That's not my words. That's not they words. That is the, I want to say, the 4th District Court, the 2nd highest court in the land, said, okay, that it was strategically, like surgically done to harm black and brown people. Okay, that's your government. Now, okay, the Board of Education. I'm talking about the entire Board of Education. You have, and I understand what some people say, including this gentleman, when he said that the tax, okay, the money that's given to public schools is primarily based on the tax revenue of that particular area. So if you have an affluent neighborhood where the tax base is great, their schools will be greater than people in a non-affluent neighborhood schools. But then my comeback to that would be, okay, but hasn't it been proven that hasn't it been proven that the rich get taxed less than the poor anyway? You know, the rich get tax breaks and stuff like that. Reaganomics, you know, trickle down economics and stuff like that. So really, does that hold any water? It might, you know, I'm not going to just totally poo-poo the thing there, but the fact of the matter is, not only the schools are bad, but you have a total misrepresentation and whitewashing of history. Ergo, you get the first documented movie of Cleopatra is Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, to this point, you still have Gods of Egypt, Exodus. Really? you know, got this one that Matt Damon. I like Matt Damon as an actor. I didn't particularly like the little clip that he had when he was saying that it really don't matter, or having or not having a diversity behind the camera really don't matter. That sort of slanted me against him. You know, I started looking at him with that cross eye, you know, with that side eye, like, dude, really? That's where you're coming from? But you're not being taught. I just feel, I mean, if you just take a step back, just really take a step back, you know, and again, the majority of my listeners, or now viewers, are of the conscious community, open-minded. I get comments and we chop it up like we fam. I mean, cause we are. Granted, we're not all blood relatives, but we family. You know, very few times I get somebody get slick at the mouth, and it is what it is. I mean, you're gonna have haters, you're gonna have trolls, that type of stuff right there. But we talk about things and we go back and forth, and it's determined, and it's just my opinion, that's supported by, I want to say, fact, and a lot of other people, is that if you were taught that your people, or people who look like you, built everything, developed everything, helped out these people over here, if that's, you know, these people over here never did anything, these people were slaves and then they were set free, and they had like 1, 2, maybe 3 people throughout the course of the year, I can sort of understand why you have people in this country that just don't like me because of the color of my skin, because they feel that I haven't earned anything, I haven't done it. Me, my lineage, my ancestors have not done anything to contribute to this country. That doesn't mean you condone it, but you can understand it. I'm open-minded and not simple enough to think, or to not understand that and realize that this is what you're taught. This is what you're taught. I just found out, I think I mentioned this maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 shows ago, that I didn't know that Jim Beam, the whiskey, the formula for that was developed by a former slave and his slave owner, who wind up starting the Jim Beam Whiskey Company, then took the formula, because at that time, if you were a slave, everything that you did belonged to your master, correct? And developed Jim Beam until it is now. I think Jim Beam's descendants and the company itself is worth something like $27 billion, some crazy, some astronomical number like that. You know, and that's just, and I'm 48. I like to think that I'm a historian, but there's so many things that you don't know, because there's so many things that are hidden, that have been destroyed, these types of things. So you don't know. This all is from the board of education. If you're taught, you know, a lot of people want to say, you know, like including this gentleman, want to say that, you know, African Americans is lazy and they don't want to do anything. I was like, well, you know, put yourself in the shoes of them, not living with them. I'm not saying that. Put yourself in the shoes of a people that have been told for most of their existence that they didn't do anything. You know, anything that they did was taken, destroyed, or it was whitewashed to be turned into something that somebody else did. You know, you start thinking that you ain't shit. Excuse my French, you know. My boy's like, look, I thought you said I wasn't supposed to. Yeah, you're right. But then you're going to start thinking that, you know, if you don't have any outlet, if you are not surrounded by people who educate you, who tells you the real history and cuts through the crap, you know, it's bigger than I don't want to do anything. You know, I'm not articulate enough. I'm not educated enough. I am not well versed enough to do this particular job. Well, there is a reason. And I've mentioned two of them. The government and their policies and the way they have misrepresented people who have been the less of thee. And this is just history. The United States ain't the first one to do it, won't be the last one to do it. You know, if you go back to, you know, back in the biblical times with the Egyptians and the slaves, you know, it was the same thing. You know, you go back to apartheid, it's the same thing. People throughout history of man, I'm not going to say superior, but the stronger of numbers have always tended to dominate the minimal of numbers. Now, apartheid is something totally different. You know, you had at that particular point, and we'll get into that in another show. I know I had the ones when we was talking about Zuma and all that type of stuff, but I've gotten some more information on that. So we'll do a show in a couple of weeks. As soon as I can lock down some stuff, we might have a call-in guest calling from South Africa, but that's real deep. But anyway, and there you have, I don't know, that they make up like 10%. It's put like this. It's not even comparable to white and black here, you know, because there's a lot more black people in South Africa than Caucasian people here. But the Caucasian people there who call themselves Afrikaans, they probably make up between 10 and 13, 14%, basically what African Americans make up in the United States. But they were able to dominate, you know, a force that outweighed them 10, 12, sometimes 20 to 1, you know? So anyway, so that's just the Board of Education. You have to actually think about that. These people are not stupid. These people are not stupid. They did this deliberately. And it's still that way today. Because when you go to grammar school, when you go to junior high school, or in the South, middle school, when you go to high school, they still not teaching the proper, factually correct history. Just not. It's just really not. So you still indoctrinating people wrongly. You still doing that. You know, I spoke to some kids about a month ago. You know, a few of them was dropped out, and they told me, they was like, Austin B, ain't nothing in high school for me. They don't talk about me nor my people. They don't talk about nothing that, you know, that concerns me or people who look like me, other than MLK, maybe Frederick Douglass, maybe Harriet Tubman, maybe Rosa Parks. And then now, you know, they're teaching President Obama because you have to. You have to. I mean, he is the current president. But other than that, you really don't know anything. They don't teach about the Richard Drews who've done the first successful open heart surgery. You know, you don't talk about all of the accomplishments that Marcus Garvey and Frederick Douglass did. You know, the fact that Frederick Douglass was the first African American male to sleep in the White House as a guest and not a slave or a butler or a maid, that type of stuff right there. You don't teach that type of stuff. So it's a societal thing. The fact that you are setting people up from birth, basically, that they haven't contributed anything, and you have a ceiling. It is a similar ceiling to women. Hillary Clinton said something probably about 6-8 months ago when she was saying, I'm going to crack that, by being the President of the United States, I'm going to crack that glass ceiling. Why is there a ceiling for anybody? The only you should determine your ceiling. Your ceiling. You should. Not anybody else. Not a government policy. Not a board of education. You know, class, teacher, administrator. You yourself should determine what glass ceiling you have, if you have one at all. And the third head of this hydra is the mainstream media. We have developed or devolved into a people who are so lazy that instead of going out and doing the research ourselves, we sit back with some bonbons, some popcorn, some beer, whatever, and let the Sean Hannitys, the Wolf Blitzers, the Anderson Coopers, the Chris Matthews, the Bill O'Reillys, to tell us what we should know. That's just ignorant. I was going back and forth with this guy, and I was saying, you need to get educated. Stop listening to commentators. Google anything. The internet to me, the internet, social media, and camera phones have totally saved a lot of people. It has opened up a whole plethora of truths that were hidden for centuries. It is so easy for you to find these facts, but you have people are so brainwashed. When we talked and had that show about blinders, where we're walked around and we're led around like cattle, with blinders on. We can't see left or right. We only looking forward, looking at what the media, the government, our masters want us to see and know. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. Don't worry about it. You don't have to go out and find anything. I'm going to go out and get it for you, and then I'm going to regurgitate it to you. I'm not going to put my spin on it. I'm not going to take out what I don't particularly want. See, that's the thing is, like I said, question everything. You need to question everything I say. Question everything. You don't have to be nasty about it. You don't have to be condescending about it. Question it in your mind. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, let me write it in your. Okay, what you say? Okay, who's that? Who is in it? Okay, cool. Now, when it's all said and done, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna fact check everything. People in power don't want you to fact check everything because they want you to believe things because they said so. I'm in a position of power and I say so. Period. You don't need to check it. You need to ask me no questions. I said so. That's not going to cut it anymore. And I think every day more and more people, black, white, brown, red, purple, whatever, begin to open their eyes and be like, you know what? I'm going to try to find out on my own. And figure out, what's going on here. What's really going on here? What's happening? Why is there so much inequality? Why are these particular people pissed off about this constantly? Let me find out what the heck is going on. See, the mass media, the government, Board of Education, they don't want you to know that. They just don't want us to do that. They just don't. Because what that does is that disrupts the status quo. The same way we question our government, which we should. We should question our government. We should question our government. We should question our schools. We should question the police. We should question the military. We should question social media, mass media. We should question everything. You tell me something that I'm supposed to digest as the truth, I should question it. That doesn't, again, like I said, that doesn't mean to, hey, I think you're full of crap. No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is jot down what you need to jot down and then fact check it. It's real easy. It's real easy. I guarantee you the majority of things that people tell us are either flat out lies, somewhat true, or just something that they just not telling us. They're omitting. So there's a bunch of omitting. Like if you get a document that was classified and now is unclassified, but a lot of stuff is redacted, which means crossed out, blacked out, so you can't see it. So now you have the particular document, but you don't understand or you can't decipher what it is because 90% of the page is redacted, scratched out, blotted out, that type of stuff right there. So you need to really be cognizant on what people are telling us, what we are being fed, if you will. Just using that analogy, what we're being fed, you know, as the truth, and figure it out. And that's what I was trying to get to the particular person, and he just wasn't hearing it. I mean, he was throwing out stats that was totally untrue. Totally untrue. You know, he said blacks are, I'm trying to get him right. He said blacks are, they are the reason of their problems. It's just flat out not true. It's not. It's not flat out not true. The government, through redlining and other programs which was denied to black and brown people and poor people, they then had to herd into a small area, a neighborhood. You want to know what's wild when you talk about government and redlining? Every big city you go to have the same neighborhood. If you go to a hood in LA, and then in Chicago, and then in Boston, and then in Miami, and then in New York, and then in Orlando, they look exactly the same. And these people are not related to each other at all. Most of them have never gone to the other neighborhoods. So if it was black people or brown people, other minority people, poor white people, if it's their fault, then how the hell all of them live the same exact way and have never seen each other before? That just really doesn't make any sense. So I was telling him, like, sir, you're wrong. You wrong. Are there lazy people in the neighborhood? Yes. Are there evil people in these hoods? Yes. Are there people who kill and murder and rob and rape? Yes. But there is no difference from that neighborhood to anybody else's neighborhood. It just does not get reported. We have no idea how many home invasions, well, not really home invasions, because you would hear that, but robberies, burglaries, that's not robberies, burglaries. The difference between robbing and burglary is force. A burglary, you go into somebody's house, you go into somebody's car, you know what I'm saying, there's nobody in there, you use no force to a person inside there, you take all of their stuff, and then you leave. A lot of people say, hey, they come home, they say their door's been kicked in, the TV going, they call and they say, I've been robbed. That's not a robbery. A robbery would have been if you're walking up to your driveway, you get out your car, somebody comes and they stick a knife in their gun, or they just ball their fists up and take your purse, take your wallet, you know, take your car. That's a robbery. That's a robbery. That's the only difference. So we have no idea how many burglaries go down in rich, affluent neighborhoods because most of the time, they're embarrassed to call the police. And if they do call the police comes out, they do what they need to do, and then they keep it moving. They do a report and they keep it moving. It's not sensationalized. Most of them have insurance, so they're not tripping about it anyway. You know, and whatever, you know, unless it's something real precious gold, stones, stuff like that. You know, other than that, they're not studying that. They're really not studying that. So you have no idea. So I was just trying to explain to this gentleman, you're just wrong. You're just wrong. He was saying that most of the people that are murdered in the country are African Americans. I'm like, that's wrong too. What you see in the media is the sensationalization of quote-unquote black-on-black crime. You know, the high murder rate in Washington, D.C. years ago. Detroit was high and was the murder capital of the world. You know, a couple, 2-3 years running, and now you have Chicago. But African Americans make up 13% of the United States. The only thing that we lead in that is factually proven is incarceration. We get locked up for the same things that other people are doing, but they just don't get locked up. We just don't have the representation, or it's just basically that's how it is. You know, how do you say you have a minimum mandatory for crack cocaine, but you don't have for powder cocaine? They both cocaine. They're both cocaine. I have clients that are the dominant society. They do drugs all the time. They just can't do them when I'm guarding them. I had one client, which he will remain nameless, that I had to get rid of years ago, who tried to do that. You know, first, I don't do drugs, never done drugs in my life. And as a police officer, I'm not putting myself in that position. I don't care how rich you are. You know, I've never wanted to be put in a position where I totally am controlled, or not even controlled, but I am totally dependent on you as a private citizen to pay my bills. You get pissed off or something like that about me, I have to straighten you about something that you did to protect your own personal interests, and you fire me, I'm stuck. So anyway, that's just a little tidbit. But they smoke cocaine, and do all sorts of stuff like that, but you never see them going to jail or anything like that. But this is not that type of conversation. This is not the subject of this particular show that we're talking about. But I'm just trying to explain to this gentleman, I was like, there are three entities that have been, are, and if things don't change, will always be the three-headed monster, the three-headed hydra, if you will, that keeps a certain class of people down. And the fact that you're angry about that, the fact that people are angry that Colin Kaepernick has sat down and brought it up, confirms what was said, that there is a issue, that there is inequality where you don't want to hear the truth. You don't want to hear the truth. No, I paid $500 for you to throw the ball. Well, that's the thing, is when I come back to people, and I was like, well, Colin Kaepernick didn't decide not to throw the ball. He didn't say that he wasn't playing. He said, I'm not standing for the national anthem. And then you get this backlash about, oh, well, the national anthem is for the troops. Since when? The national anthem wasn't developed specifically for the troops, for the veterans. I'm a veteran. And I said it last show, I get chills when I see my fellow airmen, soldiers, Navy men, Marines in uniform. I get chills. I did 6 years in the military. Wouldn't change a thing. If something was to affect the homeland, you know, to the point that they couldn't handle it, and I was able, I would do it again. You know I get some backlash. Cats that's never served. Oh, you know, you selling out. Well, if that's what you feel, that's what you feel. It is what it is. I enjoyed my service, and I'm proud of my service. I'm proud of my service now. 23 years with the police department. But I understand what Kaepernick and other people have said, because it's not that, you know, to this day, there are veterans who come home after fighting in wars that they didn't start, that are homeless, that are broken, that commit suicide. Somebody told me it was up on the thousands, you know, commit suicide every week, every month. These are veterans. But see, when Kaepernick or somebody of his ilk decide to do it, you want to throw out, oh, you disrespecting the veterans. But these are the same people that are disrespecting the veterans all the time. I asked one person on Twitter when they was talking about the veteran crap, and I was like, well, let me ask you this here. You say that you're from Baltimore. I know for a fact there's plenty of homeless veterans who have their little squeegee and a water bottle, and they beg for money, they try to clean your windshield. What do? Do you pull your car over and get out and walk over and get them $5 or $10? Do you say, okay, if I own a business, or I'm a bigwig in a company, that I reach out and hire a couple of these people? Do you do that? Silence. Basically what that means is, hell no, I don't. It just sounds good that I can throw veterans. You are disrespecting veterans, when I know that I don't give a damn about veterans anyway. They just bums to me. Or you know, one person would say, well, how do I know if they're a veteran? Ask. You know, what's going on with you, man? You know, what's going on with you? You know, now, you know, some people will lie and stuff like that, but you know, the majority of the veterans will tell you, hey man, I just came back from Iraq, I just came back from Afghanistan, you know, I fought, you know, if they're older, I fought in the Vietnam War and stuff like that. I'm homeless, you know, this, that, and the third. We don't do, I've always said, and I know I've never said it on this show, but I've always said that if you volunteer to go into the military and you serve in the military during wartime, and you go out and get hurt, when you come back home, and I'm talking about mentally and or physically hurt, you should be taken care of for the rest of your life by the same government, by the same country that you went over there and got your legs blown on for, or a IUD, blew up in your Humvee and shrapnel's in your brain. Now you have brain dead, or you suffering from PTSD or something like that. You know, it disgusts me when you have people who want to sit around and say something like a Boomer Esiason. That's another former quarterback. He played quarterback in the 80s, I want to say. 80s, early 90s for the Cincinnati Bengals. Pretty good career. Went to a Super Bowl. Joe Montana and them kicked his butt. But anyway, he was talking about the military, and he was talking about, you know, Colin Kaepernick. I would cut him, and Colin Kaepernick doesn't have the right, and he should ride in these cars and take calls and all this. Well, I asked, have you? But you formulated this great view of this particular group. Have you? And what do you do? What do you do for the cops who are fighting? Look, let's just say the NYPD cops that ran into those two buildings and are dealing with lung dysfunction, asbestos poisoning right now. What are you doing for them, Mr. Esiason? And these people that want to throw up that type of stuff. You know, it's easy to throw up something, you know, and say you're disrespecting this and you're disrespecting that. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing about it? You know, how many cops are your friends? How many cops have you helped out? Because Boomer Esiason is on the radio show based out of New York. So what are you doing? Now, again, if he is doing it, because I don't follow Boomer Esiason, that's why I'm asking the question. If some of my viewers know, hey, well, Rich, he's doing this, that, and the third, put that in the comment section below. Or if you don't want to put yourself out there, then DM me. I gave you my Instagram. I gave you the show's Twitter, the email address. Send me it, and I'll come back on the air and say, hey, I was wrong. Whoop-de-woo said Boomer Esiason, this other person do this, that, and the third on a regular basis. So, you know, we just really need to check ourselves and try to listen. See, that's the thing, is it's hard for somebody to listen. When I get asked, and I get asked all the time. I have no idea why I get asked, but I get asked a lot of times by my Caucasian comrades, you know, my buddies, you know, people on the force, you know, my clients, all that type of stuff. And we, you know, they ask certain questions about race and stuff like that. And I usually don't like to get in, because, you know, race, religion, and politics will get you to fight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, really, those are three excuse me, those are three very hard conversations to really have, you know. But I'll just say, for you to have a true conversation about race, you're going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be a higher howdy-doody conversation. You're going to have to listen to things that you don't want to hear. You're going to have to accept things that you have learned in the past that are wrong. You're going to have to hear things that you don't particularly want to hear. On both sides, really. You know, I mean, as long as somebody is open-minded. And again, when I say open-minded, you don't have to agree with everything anybody says. You don't even have to change your mind. You know, I mean, that's your opinion. But when you come to a conversation with your mind made up and you are not trying to hear somebody else, you are not trying to hear the part, then what is the sense of having a conversation? Because basically it's not a conversation, it's not a two-way conversation. It's not a dialogue, it's a monologue. Basically you or me or anybody else within that particular group are just basically trying to dominate the time, and I'm trying to talk over you to get my point across, instead of basing everything by fact and have receipts. And you just can't say, oh well, such and such said this on the radio or on the TV, so that makes it so. No. You have to be like, okay, well, I heard this from this person, and then I went and I researched it and I found the same facts in this, and this. Okay. Then what you say? You know, but like I was telling the gentleman out, you know, when I was saying it was wrong, like, you know, 13% of the country, if that means damn near every man, woman, and child of the 13% would have to be murdering people for it to be the same. It's just the numbers don't gather. If you want to know the numbers, if you really want to know the numbers, this is what I would say. Go down to your local precinct, no matter where you are in the United States. Go down to your local precinct and look in the book and ask to see the book. Hopefully they'll give it to you. Ask to see the book of missing people. Ask to see the book of the 10 most wanted people, you know, nationally. Ask to see the book of the statistics, the true federal statistics, you know, local statistics of murders. And then you can sort of understand, because what you fail to realize is prior to the beginning of this year, the end of last year, the DOJ and the FBI were not keeping, it was not required, and I'm not too sure if it is required. I think it is going to be required that in order to get federal funds for these municipalities, the sheriff's office, these law enforcement entities, that they have to report their shootings and stuff and deaths like that. But I think murders and deaths are kept in some type of national database. If not, it might be a local database. And if I'm wrong, let me know I'm wrong. But you go and you see, and you start adding up the numbers. You know, had he said that it is a higher percentage of African Americans who are killed by other African Americans than anybody else, that's true. That's true, because I think it's like somewhere to 90 to 95%, something like that, of African Americans are killed by other African Americans, and it's 80% of Caucasian Americans who are murdered and killed by Caucasian Americans. But if you add that if you put that 95% up to that 80% by numbers, by sheer numbers, that 80% will be higher, because you're talking 80% of 60% of the country. I think it's 60-64% is still Caucasian American, and you're talking 90 to 95% of 13%. So when you just sit back and you think about it, the numbers don't add up. So you should know, if this is what you're being told, it's factually incorrect. This is all I was trying to say. So then it was like, well, you know, he started rambling on, and then he was like, well, you know, where do you come up with, and how, you know, basically what my opinion is based. I said, well, hey, 6 years in the military, 23 years as a police officer, I was immediately cut off. Oh, give me a break. You were never a police officer. And then I don't know, because, you know, when you go through Twitter, back it was only 140 characters. So that's what it said. And then the next one was saying I was. So I don't know, or I was, or I am, something like that. So I don't know if those were put together where he was saying that he was a police officer. But then I was like, dude, if you are a police officer with the way that you are thinking and the facts that you are spewing and the position that you are taking, I pity the community that has to deal with you. Now, I don't know if the man's a cop or not. You know, I'm just trying to explain how the whole Twitter beef, if you will, went down. But I have to admit that I was sort of, that right there, that, no matter what else he said, you know, because I'm used to that. I'm used to that. You know, if people don't say that directly to me, because I will say, going off on a little tangent, I have been spared a lot of the trolls. I don't know, maybe they just don't know. Maybe my show, my channel is not as big enough, but I'm on Twitter all the time. I think I got total, let me see, 9, 4, that's 13, and then another 6. So together with across 3 platforms of Twitter, I got like 18,000, 19,000 tweets. So I'm, you know, that I put out, you know. So I'm deeply into Twitter, you know. I have less than 500 followers and stuff like that, but you know, you still get a lot of retweets and stuff. Just because people don't follow you doesn't mean that, you know, you don't get retweeted, because somebody who follows you, they'll retweet yours, and then if they got 1,000 people, then their 1,000 people can now, you know, stuff like that. So anyway, but everything that he said, you know, and I'm in a lot of chat groups, and I contribute to a lot of other people's radio shows, so I read the timelines and chat rooms, and just some of the vitriol it's just amazing, the hatred that people will spew forth from their computers is amazing. But the only time I got angry was when he said, you could never, you know, give me a break, you were never a cop. I'm like, really? Why? You know, why? You know, and you think about it, and again, some of the people that I've spoken to, you know, it's like Rich, you know, he's a fool, he's a racist, he's a troll, he's a bigot, you know, who cares? And I understand that, but I was like, I've given this profession 23 years of my life. I've given the military 6 years of my life. I'm 48, so if you add the 23 and the 6, that's 29. That's more than half my life I've given to service for this country. And you want to sit up there and say that I could never? Why? Because I'm spewing facts that are totally different than what you want to hear? Really? So I blocked him, kept it moving. We had a discussion about some other stuff with other people that were in this stream, and it is what it is. So I brought that up, you know, basically to tie everything out, you know, tie everything up in the loophole, you know, with Colin Kaepernick, and just the hypocrisy, you know, just the hypocrisy about people, you know, and how they throw things out, you know, just because it sounds good, and you're not supposed to crack, you know, pull on your beard or scratch your ear and be like, huh? Really? That don't seem to make any sense. And then they know it don't make no sense, because you can spew a point and then somebody questions you on that point, and you have no factual basis on what you said. You have no receipts. So you get pissed off, and now it's a name calling. You know, you're this, you're that, you know, all that type of stuff. You know, you really have no comeback, because all you heard was something from a radio station or a television news organization. You have no depth. They didn't give you any footnotes. They didn't give you any receipts to be like, hey, well, we did our investigation, we did our research, and these are the people we spoke to, or these are the communities that we saw, or this is the study that we are referring to or regurgitating from. You know, you don't get all of that, so you become pissed off. And I'll leave it at this. I was listening to Dr. Boyce Watkins today, actually. He's here in Orlando at time joining a family reunion. I didn't get a chance to go. I don't like a whole lot of people, you know, around, so I'm not really going. But he was video chatting, and he had said something that was sort of funny. He was like, you know, when people get mad, it becomes when they become mad and don't have any substance, you know, don't have anything to come back. When you start telling the truth and they understand you telling the truth, it becomes like your mom and dad when you were younger, when you have a discussion and you're going back and forth, and you might be winning the discussion based on fact, and they tell you shut up, and you be like, well why? Because I said so. You know, you have people who are like that, where you get into them so tough, and it's like, because I got the power, because I own the job, because I said so. That's all you need to know. Now be gone. That type of stuff. So it is what it is. Well, I'm gonna end the show. We've been talking almost an hour. I appreciate your time and the honor of listening to the sound of my voice. I do want to say one thing on remember Cash Mobbing and stuff like that. Remember we started that when we first, I think it was like the second or third show we started talking about Cash Mobbing. And I appreciate a lot of my viewers have hit me up and said that they've gotten inquiries and stuff like that, you know, based on people who have watched and back then listened to the show, and you know they've sent some money via GoMe pages and funds and all that type of stuff. So I appreciate that. But what I really would love for you guys to do is to cash mob, or basically go on this website. It is Orlando. No, I'm sorry. I'm back it up. It's Dueling Dragons Orlando, one-word.com. DuelingDragonsOrlando.com. Go there, check it out. I think on the About page, or maybe the last page of the site, it's a PayPal account where you can donate money. I mean, this team is just so awesome. Just so awesome. Remember I said the last show on Wednesday that, you know, we had just came back from Colorado Springs, where the team placed 1 and 2 in their heat, and they brought home gold. And it's a Dragon Boat team. It's actually 2 teams made up of inner city youth and the Orlando police officers, and it's just awesome. It really is. It's just awesome. It was an honor to be with them for 4 days as their photographer and videographer, and they accepted me, brought me in. They actually presented me with one of the gold medals, you know, when we had got back to the airport to fly back here to Orlando. So I really want to do something for them and understand, and I understand the importance of the program. We are the only program like this in the nation. I'm hoping that me coming on board, I'm now the social media director, if you will. You know, they have their own YouTube channel. It's called Orlando Dueling Dragons. Go to that, subscribe. The Instagram is Orlando Dueling Dragons, one word. The Twitter is Orlando. It's ORL, then Dueling, DUELING, then Drag, DRAG. Go to there and subscribe also. But before you even do that, go to the website. Again, it's www.duelingdragonsorlando.com. And it'll show you videos, it'll show you, it'll give you the doctrine, it will show you pictures of the kids interacting with the cops, you know, for team bonding. It is cops and kids together forever, you know, for a better future for everybody. They're working towards a future not only better for them and it's for everyone. I'm really hoping one of my goals, especially when I retire in November, is to go into this full time and basically start with Central Florida, where each municipality, because there's 3 sheriff's organizations, And all the municipalities either have their own teams where they have their own group of cops and their own inner city kids, or combine, because some of the municipalities are rather small, where they combine with other agencies, either ours or somebody else, and we have a good 6, maybe 7, maybe even 8 teams within the next couple of years where we could practice together. We can do we can find sponsors and do heats and races and festivals here in Orlando, in Tampa, and Daytona Beach. They already did one in Daytona Beach at the beginning of the season. They're going to do one here at the end of the season. You know, so it's Daytona at the beginning of the season, Orlando at the end of the season. And maybe you can incorporate Miami, you can incorporate Tampa Bay. But I really would be honored. I would really love it if you would go to, again, I'll say it again. It's duelingdragonsorlando.com, or you can email us at orlandoduelingdragons@gmail.com. I sure appreciate it. So until next show, stay safe, stay informed, stay blessed. Peace, and I'm out of here.